Welcome back to Night Coffee Crime. Today, we're diving into a case that shocked Arizona in the late 1980s, the tragic murder of Cindy Monkman. A young woman with her whole life ahead of her, Cindy's story is one of betrayal, greed, and senseless violence. Join me as we explore what happened on that fateful day, and the investigation that followed. Cindy Monkman had recently moved back to Arizona. Before that, she had spent several years in Minneapolis, where she secured a significant corporate job. With a master's degree in public health and a bachelor's degree in nutrition, Cindy was passionate about health and wellness. In Arizona, she juggled several part-time jobs, including working as a nutrition consultant and at a local pizza restaurant. As she approached her 30th birthday, Cindy found herself grappling with significant personal challenges. She had recently endured a tumultuous breakup that left her feeling emotionally drained. Living in a small apartment, the weight of turning 30 heavily impacted her as she reflected on her life and what she had hoped to achieve by this milestone. Struggling with her self-esteem, Cindy sought support and joined a self-esteem group, trying to navigate the depression that had taken hold of her during this difficult period. On October 6, 1988, Cindy Monkman's life would take a fateful turn. That evening, at Bobby McGee's, a popular bar and restaurant, Cindy's friend Annette Clay met two German immigrants, Michael and Rudy Apelt. The Apelt brothers introduced themselves as computer and banking experts. Rudy claimed to be an international banker, impressing Annette enough to get her phone number. He called her on Saturday, and the two agreed to meet up later that night at Bobby McGee's. This time, Annette brought along Cindy and her sister Kathy Monkman. From the moment Michael saw Cindy, his attention was fixated on her. Standing at 6'7", with blonde hair and a confident presence, he seemed like a charming and wealthy German gentleman. Despite their limited English, both brothers managed to impress Cindy and her friends. Michael, in particular, spent the evening dancing with Cindy and showering her with compliments. Even with his broken English, he repeatedly told her, "You are the woman I want to marry, and me you marry." Cindy was captivated by Michael's charm, good looks, and what seemed like financial success. Little did she know, the man who seemed like her dream partner had far more sinister intentions. In the week following their first meeting, Cindy and Annette saw the Apelt brothers several times. However, after one visit from the Apelts to Cindy's apartment, she realized that more than $100 in cash was missing. This immediately raised suspicion for both Cindy and Annette. They began questioning the Apelts' claims, particularly whether they were really staying at the Holiday Inn as they had said. Determined to uncover the truth, the women called several hotels in the area and discovered that the brothers were actually staying at a Motel 6. Confronted with this information, the Apelts claimed it was all a misunderstanding. That evening, after dropping the brothers off at the supposed Holiday Inn, Cindy and Annette decided to check the Motel 6 for themselves. There, they found the Apelts' room, and inside was a German woman named Anke Dorn. The next day, the brothers were furious. They claimed that the women's investigation had compromised their high-security clearance, and that they had lost their jobs and work visas because of it. They explained that Anke was a family friend whose husband was in the hospital. Feeling guilty, Cindy and Annette apologized and even suggested ways they might help the brothers regain their jobs or find new work. However, the Apelts rejected all their offers. Frustrated, Annette finally blurted out, "What do you want us to do? Marry you?" To their surprise, the brothers answered, "Yes." As their relationship progressed, Michael moved into Cindy's apartment, while Rudy moved in with Annette. However, after less than a week, Annette asked Rudy to leave, and he disappeared from her life. Rudy and Anke moved to a motel, and soon after, Michael told Annette that Rudy had returned to Germany. Cindy also believed that Rudy and Anke had left the country. On October 28, 1988, Cindy and Michael got married in a quick, quiet ceremony in Las Vegas. Cindy, who normally shared everything with her sister Kathy, didn't tell her, or anyone else, about her wedding plans. This secrecy was unusual for the sisters, as they rarely kept anything from each other. About a week later, Cindy called Kathy and told her that she had married Michael. Kathy was furious at first, upset that Cindy had kept such a major decision hidden. Cindy swore her to secrecy, telling her that she wanted to have a proper celebration before announcing the marriage publicly. In December, Cindy and Michael threw a party to celebrate their marriage. Everyone appeared to be happy for them, and on the surface, it seemed like a joyful occasion. But little did Cindy know, she had very little time left. Cindy and her sister Kathy had planned to fly home to Illinois for Christmas on December 24th, Christmas Eve. On the 23rd, Cindy was supposed to meet her friend Annette and a young woman she was counseling, Maria, for dinner and some last-minute gift shopping. However, Cindy never showed up. That same evening, the Apelts and Ankdorn met up at Bobby McGee's around 10:30 p.m. After having dinner, they stayed for a few drinks in the lounge before heading to another nightclub. Michael returned to the apartment around 2 a.m. By then, Annette, Kathy, and Maria had left several messages on Cindy's answering machine, all expressing their concern that she hadn't shown up for dinner or called Kathy as planned. Growing increasingly worried, Annette went to Cindy's apartment and, upon arrival, noticed that Cindy's purse was still there. This raised further alarm, as it was highly unusual for Cindy to leave without it. Michael, who appeared intoxicated, claimed that Cindy had received a phone call from an angry man around 7 p.m., after which she left the apartment. On the afternoon of December 24th, Cindy Monkman was discovered in the desert east of Phoenix, Arizona. She had been stabbed once in the lower chest and 4 times in the back. Her throat had been slashed so deeply that her head was nearly severed from her body. Cindy's face and body were covered in bruises, indicating a brutal attack. Near her body, investigators found a clear shoe print, as well as a partial shoe imprint on her face, as if the killer had stepped on her. These prints were later identified as matching a specific style of Reebok tennis shoes. The area around the crime scene also had multiple tire tracks, suggesting a vehicle had been involved in transporting her there. After Cindy's death, Michael borrowed money from a bank to buy a plane ticket for her funeral in Illinois. His brother Rudy and Ankdorn also accompanied him. Shortly after returning to Phoenix, a disturbing message was found on Cindy's answering machine. The message, spoken in broken English, said, "Hear what I have to talk. I have cut through the throat of your wife and I stabbed and more frequently in the stomach in the back with a knife. If I don't get my stuff, your girlfriend is next and then your brother and last it is you. Do it now, if not, you see what happens. My eyes are everywhere." Michael contacted Detective Davis, who was fluent in German, to help translate the message. Detective Davis listened to the recording over the phone and immediately noticed that it sounded like someone reading from a weak translation of German to English. He instructed Michael to bring the tape to the police station the following day. Meanwhile, homicide detective Mark Jones discovered that Cindy had a $400,000 life insurance policy, which had gone into effect on December 23rd, the day before she was murdered. This raised immediate suspicions, and Michael became a key suspect in the investigation. The poorly staged threatening message only furthered the detective's suspicions. Fearing that Ank or the Apelt brothers might flee the country, the police set up surveillance to monitor their movements. One officer knocked on their door under the pretense of looking for a non-existent person, but was told he had the wrong apartment. Shortly after this encounter, Rudy and Michael called the police, claiming that 3 tall black men had appeared at their door and threatened them. Detective Davis instructed them to come to the station the next day. When the 3 suspects arrived at the police station, Detective Jones decided to isolate Ankdorn, the German woman associated with the Apelt brothers. His goal was to raise her stress levels before starting the interview. He separated her from the 2 brothers and placed her in an open lobby area, where he secretly observed her for about an hour and a half. As time passed, Ank grew visibly anxious, fidgeting constantly and eventually becoming so distressed that she bent over, placing her head between her knees. Sensing her breaking point, Jones approached her and, in a calculated move, showed her an autopsy photo of Cindy. He used the image to increase her emotional discomfort, which proved to be the final straw. Under the pressure, Ank finally broke down and agreed to talk. In exchange for immunity, she confessed that both Michael and Rudy A. Pelt had taken Cindy out to the desert and killed her with a knife. Ank also revealed a chilling detail. Michael had told her that Cindy had signed her own death warrant when she signed the insurance papers. On the morning of December 23, Cindy and Michael took their Volkswagen in for repairs and rented a Subaru. Cindy was busy preparing for her trip to Illinois with her sister Kathy the following day. Meanwhile, the A. Pelts were also making preparations. Michael drove Rudy and Ank to a rental agency, where they rented a large car with enough space for their plans. That evening, around 7 p.m., Ank and Rudy drove the rented car to a German restaurant and waited. About 15 minutes later, Michael drove by in the Subaru, but Ank didn't see Cindy in the car. Ank and Rudy followed Michael down the main road toward a desert area where they had previously practiced crossbow shooting. When Rudy reached the location, he veered off the road, but Michael kept driving. Rudy drove around the desert for a while before spotting Michael's car. Once he located Michael, Rudy parked the car some distance away and told Ank to stay put. He got out and returned to the car about 5 minutes later. Both brothers then drove back to the motel where Ank and Rudy were staying. Once there, they showered and changed their clothes. At 10:30 p.m., the A. Pelts and Ank met at Bobby McGee's. After enjoying dinner together, they spent time in the lounge area, having a few drinks before heading to another nightclub to continue their night out. As the late hours of December 25 approached, Rudy and Ank accompanied Michael as he drove the rented Subaru near Salt River. He drove recklessly, making sharp turns and hitting the brakes hard, determined to ensure that there would be no evidence linking them to the crime scene. After returning the car to the rental agency, it was discovered that 2 of the tires needed replacement due to the unusual wear caused by his erratic driving. On December 31, the A. Pelts and Ank flew to Illinois for Cindy's funeral. After the funeral, they returned to Phoenix on January 2. The following morning, they flew to Los Angeles, where they paid a homeless man $20 to record a threatening message on Cindy's answering machine, before heading back to Phoenix. Near Cindy's body, there was a partial imprint of a Reebok tennis shoe, suggesting that the killer had either stepped on or kicked her in the face. When questioned, Michael denied owning such tennis shoes. The police executed a search warrant at Cindy's apartment. They also seized 2 rolls of film containing photographs of Michael wearing tennis shoes that matched the footprints found at the crime scene. Rudy and Michael were tried separately and found guilty of first-degree murder, receiving the death penalty. In exchange for her testimony, Ank was granted immunity from prosecution. In May 2009, a Maricopa County Superior Court judge ruled that Rudy A. Pelt was mentally disabled, leading to his removal from Arizona's death row. Rudy A. Pelt passed away in 2022 from natural causes while in prison. Meanwhile, Michael A. Pelt remains on death row. As we reflect on the tragic case of Cindy Monkman, it's essential to remember that behind the headlines are real people whose lives were forever changed. Cindy's story serves as a reminder of the impact of violence and the importance of raising awareness about such issues. Thank you for joining me today as we explored this heartbreaking case. If you found this story important, please like and subscribe for more true crime content.